Welcome to the Global Warwatch Network.
Great to be here.
Today we're getting into a really fascinating story, one that's been unfolding quite rapidly in the Indian Ocean region. We're talking about the significant diplomatic recalibration between India and the Maldives.
That's right. And this isn't just, your standard story of shifting alliances. It's actually a pretty compelling look at how economic realities, strategic interests, and some really astute diplomacy can reshape international relationships, sometimes in quite surprising ways.
Exactly. We spent a lot of time digging through recent reports, government statements, analyses, the whole lot, really, to bring you the crucial insights into this very dynamic partnership.
Yeah, and our goal today is to sort of peel back the layers, understand how India's foreign policy played such a pivotal role in these shifts. We saw things go from, well, quite a bit of friction to renewed cooperation.
A pretty dramatic swing. And we want to understand what that means, not just for India and the Maldives, but for the wider regional security picture. So let's unpack this.
Okay, so where do we start? Maybe back September 2023, when President Mohammad Muizzu came into office.
Right, because the mood then was very different from what we're seeing now, wasn't it?
Completely different. His rise to power was largely, significantly propelled by this India Out campaign. It wasn't just background noise, it was a core part of his platform.
And this campaign was explicitly about reducing or even completely removing Indian influence and, critically, that Indian military presence in the Maldives.
Exactly. It was a very clear signal, a deliberate move away from the previous administration's India First policy, which, as the name suggests, really prioritized close ties with New Delhi.
And like you said, it wasn't just campaign talk. Once Muizzu was in power, his initial actions seemed to double down on that message, confirming a pro-China stance pretty quickly.
That first state visit is a key example, right? He didn't go to India first, which would be the traditional move for a Maldivian president given the proximity and history.
No, he went straight to Beijing, bypassing India altogether. That sent a very clear message.
It absolutely did, more than symbolic. It was a statement of divergence, a sign that Maldivian foreign policy was heading in a new direction. For a country that close to India, that was a pretty significant choice. Eyebrows were definitely raised across the region.
And it wasn't just about the visit itself. There were concrete agreements that came out of that trip, too.
Right, including agreements for Chinese military assistance, which, again, reinforced this perception of a strategic pivot towards Beijing, especially considering the long-standing defense cooperation the Maldives had always had with India.
And all this lined up with the campaign rhetoric, which had been strongly critical of India's military presence.
Precisely. So following through on that, his administration formally requested India to withdraw its troops, and they put a deadline on it, March 15th, 2024.
A very specific, non-negotiable deadline. That wasn't just a polite request. It felt like a direct challenge to India's role in the region.
It really was a forceful push against decades of established defense ties. And then you had the other incidents that added fuel to the fire.
Yes, the derogatory remarks. Some ministers in the Maldivian government made comments about India, even about Indian leadership. That caused quite a stir.
A diplomatic firestorm is a good way to put it. These weren't just off-the-cuff remarks. They felt quite pointed, amplified by social media, and created a really tense atmosphere between the two governments.
Made things incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
So you had this situation, an India Out campaign, a clear pivot to China, a demand for troop withdrawal, and public insults. How did India react?
Well, this is where it gets interesting, and I think quite telling about India's diplomatic approach under Prime Minister Modi. Despite all that friction, the provocations, the demands, India kept its cool.
Engagement over escalation. That seems to be the phrase people use.
Exactly. It wasn't about hitting back immediately. It was a strategic decision, reflecting a core part of Modi's foreign policy, especially the neighborhood first idea, prioritizing stable relationships with neighbors even when things get rough.
A calculated approach then, not just reacting.
Very much so. It showed a long-term view, a willingness to play the long game, you could say. And it started almost immediately.
How so?
Well, think about it. After Muizzu won the election, despite the India Out platform, PM Modi was among the very first world leaders to congratulate him.
Seems like standard protocol, maybe.
It is, but in this context, it was significant. It signaled India was still open for business, diplomatically speaking, not shutting the door because of the campaign rhetoric. It set a conciliatory tone right from the start.
Laying the groundwork even amidst the tension.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that engagement continued. Modi met Muizzu again at the COP28 climate conference in the UAE. Another chance for direct dialogue.
Keeping those channels open.
Vital. And it allowed them to address concerns pragmatically. Look at how they handled the troop withdrawal demand. That was a major test.
Right, the March 15th deadline. What happened?
Instead of digging in or escalating, India found, quite a clever solution. By May 2024, they replaced the 76 Indian military personnel with civilian technicians from Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, HAL.
So the personnel changed, but the function remained.
Essentially, yes. The HAL technicians could still operate and maintain the helicopters and aircraft India had provided, crucial for things like medical evacuations and surveillance. So India met Mal's demand, the military personnel left, but the crucial strategic support continued.
That's quite a deft diplomatic move, addressing the political concern without sacrificing the practical strategic necessity.
It really diffused a major point of contention. But India's response wasn't just diplomatic maneuvering. The economic aspect was huge.
Okay, let's get into that, because it seems like the sustained economic support was maybe the decisive factor here.
I think that's fair to say. Even while the political relationship was strained, India kept the economic lifelines open and even strengthened them.
Like the direct aid, I remember reading about an increase.
Yes, an increase in aid by 120 crore, a significant boost, signaling support when it was needed. But it went beyond just direct aid.
Oh.
India rolled over Treasury bills worth $150 million. Essentially, they deferred Maldives' debt repayment on those bills, giving them critical breathing room when their finances were under stress.
So not demanding payment back immediately.
Right, preventing a potential cash crunch.
Yeah.
And then there were the currency swaps, $750 million worth. These are vital for managing foreign reserves, especially when they're dwindling.
These are substantial financial mechanisms, not just small gestures.
Absolutely. They were financial lifelines, providing a buffer for an economy that was, by all accounts, facing serious headwinds.
And the trade relationship, did that continue strongly?
It did. In fact, India offered the Maldives the highest ever quotas for essential goods exports for the 2024-25 period, the highest since their trade agreement began way back in 1981.
So guaranteeing access to vital supplies, food, materials.
Exactly, reinforcing India's role as a reliable partner for basic necessities. And overall, bilateral trade actually surged to $548 million in 2023.
Even with the political tensions.
Yes. Supported by practical things like visa-free access for Indian business travelers and ongoing line of credit projects for infrastructure, India was demonstrating very clearly that it was an indispensable economic partner.
So India played the long game diplomatically and kept the economic pressure, or perhaps support, consistently applied. Did this start to shift things in Malé?
This is where the narrative really pivots. Because yes, it absolutely did. All that strategic patience and economic support started to hit home. The key driver for Muizzu's change in stance wasn't really a sudden change of heart ideologically. It was pragmatism, hard, unavoidable economic reality.
What was the specific situation?
Sources are very clear. The Maldivian economy was under severe stress. A huge budget deficit, foreign reserves running dangerously low.
And they still owed China a lot from previous projects.
They did. But it became increasingly obvious that China wasn't going to be the one to bail them out of this immediate crisis. India emerged as the crucial partner, maybe the only partner, capable of helping them avoid a potential default.
So the economic dependency became undeniable.
Completely. India's financial support became absolutely pivotal for Muizzu's government just to stabilize things. And this was powerfully demonstrated during PM Modi's visit in July 2025.
What happened during that visit?
India announced a fresh line of credit USD 565 million, about Rs 5,000 crore, specifically for infrastructure projects prioritized by the Maldives, a massive commitment.
And there's something unique about this line of credit, wasn't there?
Yes, very significant. It's the first time such credit is being extended to the Maldives in Indian rupees.
Why is that important?
It signals a deeper financial integration, it reduces foreign exchange risk for the Maldives they can potentially repay in rupees, and it boosts the rupee's role regionally. It's a structural shift in their financial ties.
And PM Modi himself commented on this, didn't he?
He did. He said, to give a new impetus to our development partnership, we have decided to provide a line of credit of $565 million. It will be used for projects related to infrastructure development in line with the priorities of the people of Maldives. Very clear intent.
But it wasn't just new money, was it? There was also help with existing debt.
Crucially, yes. An agreement was signed that slashed the Maldives' annual debt repayment burden to India by 40%.
40%. That must have provided huge relief.
Immense. They were paying around $51 million annually on a previous $800 million loan package. That dropped to just $29 million. That frees up over $20 million a year for them. Huge fiscal space for a small island nation.
You can see how that kind of practical relief would change the tone.
Undeniably. And President Muizzu publicly acknowledged this shift. His statements were a complete turnaround from the India out days.
What did he say?
He described PM Modi as a wonderful person who was very fond of building relationships between India's neighbors. He added, the Maldives and India have a very good relationship that goes back centuries, and with PM Modi's leadership, cooperation is going to be even more prosperous.
That's a remarkable change in rhetoric.
Stark contrast. He also said, we all have seen how India has helped the Maldives in the past, and nobody will doubt how India will be a very crucial partner going forward. A very public affirmation driven by India's undeniable support.
And he even mentioned tourism, acknowledging India's importance there too.
Yes, hoping Modi's visit would boost people-to-people exchanges, recognizing that economic reality. It shows how India's consistent, patient strategy, combining diplomacy with substantial economic leverage, ultimately brought about this pragmatic reassessment in Malé.
So the economic pivot seems clear. Did the defense and security relationship also get back on track?
It certainly appears so. There's been a clear strengthening there, too. The Maldives Ministry of Defense is pushing forward with a plan to modernize the MNDF, the Maldives National Defense Force, equipping them with, quote, state-of-the-art platforms and resources.
Modernizing their own forces.
Right, enhancing their national security and civil defense capabilities. President Muizzu himself has emphasized this need for preparedness.
And we're seeing actual procurements.
There are reports, for instance, of a significant deal around MVR 560 million with a Turkish company for military drones. It shows they're actively seeking new capabilities, maybe diversifying their sources too.
And these decisions are made at the highest level.
Yes, the National Security Council, chaired by the president. It indicates a strategic commitment to bolstering their own defense posture.
And how does India fit into this renewed defense focus?
India remains a cornerstone partner. A very visible example was during that same July 2025 visit by PM Modi. India gifted a large number of vehicles to the MNDF.
How many?
A total of 72 vehicles, handed over right at the president's office. A very symbolic gesture underscoring the renewed defense ties.
What kind of vehicles were they? Just standard trucks?
Oh, it was a very comprehensive package, clearly tailored to MNDF needs. Let's see. There were 8 large 27-seater buses, likely for troop transport.
Okay.
Then 10 pickup trucks, 10 minivans, another 10 vans. So lots of versatile transport options.
Yeah.
Also 5 lorries for heavier cargo and 8 tractors.
So a lot of logistical support.
Definitely. But also heavier equipment. 4 tipper dump trucks, 4 backhoe loaders crucial for engineering and construction, 2 cranes, 6 mini excavators, and 5 larger excavators.
Oh, that's quite a range. Everything from buses to excavators.
Exactly. It shows a commitment to supporting their operational readiness, their logistics, even their engineering and disaster response capabilities right across the board. Very practical support.
And this is on top of the ongoing training India provides.
Absolutely. India is still the largest provider of training for the MNDF, covering something like 70% of their defense training needs. Over 1,500 MNDF personnel trained in India in the last decade alone.
Building those long-term skills and relationships.
And they actively participate in joint activities, EEZ patrols, counter-narcotics ops, search and rescue, disaster relief exercises. Plus, India continues to provide air assets like those helicopters and aircraft for surveillance and medevacs. They've done hundreds of those missions recently.
What about medical support?
Yes, India provides equipment and even a team of medical specialists serving at the MNDF hospital in Malé Sanaya Hospital. Plus, many MNDF doctors train at India's Armed Forces Medical College.
And infrastructure. Are those projects continuing?
Key projects are moving forward. The Composite Training Center for MNDF, the Coastal Radar System for Maritime Awareness, the brand new Ministry of Defense HQ inaugurated during Modi's visit with Indian funding, and the construction of the Akatha MNDF harbor. All significant enhancements.
So it sounds like the defense relationship is quite deep and multi-layered, supported by regular dialogues and exercises too.
Very much so. They have annual defense cooperation dialogues and those regular joint exercises. Ikuvarin, Akatha, and the trilateral Dosti exercise with Sri Lanka, which even had Bangladesh observing recently. It's a robust framework.
Okay, so defense ties are strong. What about the broader development partnership? India's role there seems massive.
It really is. India has been a crucial development partner for decades, playing a huge role in the Maldives' socio-economic progress through infrastructure and capacity building.
We mentioned the recent lines of credit, but this goes back further, right?
Oh, yes. Remember the USD 1.4 billion financial package back in 2018? That included budget support, currency swaps, funding lines, then another USD 100 million lossy in 2022. Consistent, large-scale financial backing.
And we see the results on the ground.
Definitely. Those 3,300 social housing units handed over in Holhumail are a prime example. Real homes for people. And the water supply and sewerage projects across 34 islands, that's basic essential infrastructure improving daily life for thousands.
What about bigger connectivity projects?
The standout is the Greater Malé Connectivity Project, the GMCP, that bridge and causeway network connecting Malé to Vilanjili, Guhifalhu, and Thilafushi. Funded by a $400 million lossy and a $100 million grant from India.
That sounds transformative.
It's expected to be a huge boost for the economy, jobs, development, plus other key projects like roads in Edu City, land reclamation there, and redeveloping the airports in Hanamadu and Gen, all vital for connectivity and trade.
And it's not just huge projects, is it? There's community-level stuff, too.
Right. Those 65 high-impact community development projects, the HICDPs, these are smaller scale but directly impact community centers, youth facilities, gyms, coastal protection, streetlights. 6 were inaugurated during Modi's visit, showing tangible progress.
Seems very comprehensive. Even support for fisheries.
Yes, expanding facilities for the state fisheries company, MAFCO, and facilitating duty-free tuna exports to India. A direct boost to a key sector.
And trade generally remains strong.
Robust. That 1981 agreement for essential goods is more active than ever with those record quotas. Bilateral trade is over $500 million annually, and they've even started talks for a free trade agreement.
Wow, an FTA. That signals serious long-term economic integration.
It does. And digital cooperation is another area moving fast. The agreement to adopt India's UPI payment system in the Maldives is a big deal.
Making digital payments seamless.
Exactly. For residents and tourists alike, big step towards digital integration. India is also sharing other successful digital platforms. And of course, tourism, India has been the top source market for years. And they're talking about more direct flights.
And finally, the human element developing skills.
Absolutely crucial. India remains a key partner for human resource development. Lots of scholarships, increased training slots through the ITEC program, over 3,300 Maldivians trained in person recently, plus agreements covering capacity building in civil services, customs, judiciary, police, building institutional links across the board.
Okay, so we've covered the diplomacy, the economics, the security, the development. It's an incredibly broad and deep relationship. What does this all mean strategically, especially for India?
Well, the Maldives holds, as India often says, a special place in its neighborhood-first policy, which is all about stability and prosperity in the Indian Ocean region. And geography is key here.
How close are we talking?
Really close. Barely 70 nautical miles from India's Minicoy Island and just 300 nautical miles from India's west coast. That proximity alone gives it immense strategic importance.
And it sits astride major shipping lanes, right?
Critical ones. The 8-degree and 1.5-degree channels. Huge amounts of global trade and energy pass through there. So for India's maritime security, a stable, friendly Maldives is absolutely vital. Not just preferable, but crucial.
PM Modi has spoken about this shared interest in regional stability.
Yes, explicitly. He said, peace, stability, and prosperity in the Indian Ocean region are our shared goals. And mentioned strengthening maritime security through the Colombo Security Conclave. He's also been clear. India will always support the Maldives to strengthen its defense capabilities.
And this fits into India's broader Sagar vision.
Perfectly. Security and growth for all in the region. Both nations are key players in making that happen, ensuring a free, open, inclusive, peaceful Indo-Pacific. There's even the newer Mahasagar concept, broadening that collaborative security idea.
And in the context of China's growing presence in the Indian Ocean.
A strong India-Maldives partnership becomes even more important. It acts as a counterbalance, helps safeguard Indian interests, and promotes regional stability, preventing dominance by any single external power. It's a strategic imperative for India.
And India has backed this up with action over the years, being a first responder for the Maldives.
Absolutely. That history builds enormous trust. Operation Cactus in 1988, when India intervened to stop a coup attempt. The response after the 2004 tsunami. Flying in water during the 2014 Malé water crisis. and the extensive support during the COVID pandemic.
Consistently there in times of need.
Every single time. That reliability, that track record, it reinforces India's credibility like nothing else. It shows they're the partner the Maldives can truly count on when things get tough.
So, when you put all that together, the history, the recent patient diplomacy, the undeniable economic leverage,
It paints a clear picture. The shift away from the India out rhetoric towards this renewed cooperation is a major diplomatic turnaround. But it's a turnaround driven by realism, by mutual interest, and by the fundamental realities of the region. India's sustained engagement really paid off.
and that invitation for PM Modi to be the guest of honor for the Maldives' 60th Independence Day, that feels like a very strong symbol of this renewed partnership.
A very public affirmation, exactly. It shows the relationship hasn't just survived the friction, but has perhaps matured, emerging stronger and more grounded in practical realities.
It's a fascinating case study, really. Shows that while politics can create storms, those underlying forces, geography, economics, shared security needs, often pull nations back together.
Well said. Pragmatism often wins out in the end, doesn't it?
It certainly seems so here. So wrapping this up, what really stands out to you about this whole recalibration? And what broader implications might it have for the Indian Ocean's future?
For me, it's the demonstration of India's strategic patience and the effective use of comprehensive national power, diplomatic, economic, security working in concert. The implication is that stable, mutually beneficial relationships, even if tested, can be rebuilt on pragmatic grounds, which is crucial for regional stability, especially with increasing external influences.
A powerful lesson in statecraft. And that brings us to the end of this analysis on the evolving India-Maldives relationship. Thank you for tuning in to the Global Warwatch Network.
Thanks for having me.
If you found this discussion insightful, please do like this episode, share it with anyone you think might be interested, and definitely subscribe to the Global Warwatch Network for more explorations of global affairs like this one.
And we genuinely want to hear your thoughts. What do you make of this shift? Let us know in the comment section below.
You can also connect with us on social media. All the links you need are right there in the description. We really appreciate your continued support and engagement. Thanks again for listening.